Welcome everyone to our session today. For those of you that I haven't had the chance to speak to, I'm Laura Loudon and I'm the recruitment manager for the Masters in Global Healthcare Leadership. Today I'm joined by a panel of 4 students who are going to be sharing more about their experience on the programme so far. So a massive thank you to all of you for joining me today. Also on the call is Kate Richards-Whitworth, who is the Associate Director of Recruitment and Admissions, and she works in a number of different executive programmes here at the Business School. So together we'll be putting some questions forward to the panel very shortly. But before we do that, I'm just going to kick off with a few key facts about the programme. Please can I have the next slide? Lovely. So the Masters in Global Healthcare Leadership is a new programme. It was just launched last year, and it's a partnership between the Business School and Nuffield Department of Primary Care Health Sciences. In terms of the structure, it's a 2-year part-time programme, and it's broken down into 18 months of taught modules and then 6 months working on a final dissertation. So as you can see here, there are 8 modules in total, 7 of which are held in person in Oxford. And then you'll have an online module, which runs throughout the duration of the in-person modules. So really it works out that you'll have a module in Oxford about every 2 or 3 months, and these primarily run for 4 days from Tuesday to Friday. In between the modules, you'll study from home. We say you should allow for at least 10 hours of study time per week. We can obviously talk to the panel about that shortly. And that's for reading, online learning, and working on your assessments. So the programme is designed for people who are in full-time work. We have 1 class every year with the next intake starting in September. And the fee for the programme is just over £52,500. Please can I have the next slide? Great. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what the current class looks like. And this will be very similar to what we expect for the next incoming cohort, but we imagine the group will be a little bit larger. So as you can see here, this year we have 35 students coming in from all over the world. In the current class, we have people from South Korea, South Africa, India, Switzerland, Canada, Malaysia, Bahrain, and many more. And as well as being internationally diverse, we've seen a nice mix of sectors represented across healthcare. So we have people we have students working in public and private hospitals, in healthcare technology, non-profit, pharma, finance, and again, many more. And as you can see here, we have a good gender balance. So this year we have 43% women, and the average age this year is also 43. So it is an experienced group, but there's obviously quite a lot of range within that. So we have people in their early 30s, we have people in their 60s, and it's really nice to see that variety in the classroom. I think it really adds to the experience for everybody. Okay, please can I have the next slide? Okay, so now we're going to move into the main focus of today and hear from our panel. So unfortunately, Mohammed, I think, had a work clash, so he hopefully will come in at some point. But currently on the call with me is Celine, Sarah, and Olamide. And thank you so much to all of you for joining and giving up your time and being with us today. I just want to share a bit of context to everybody watching online. As I mentioned, the programme is...
Laura, I'm here as well. Sorry to
hi,
interrupt.
thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, thank you so much for joining. Perfect timing. So yes, as I was saying, the programme is just launched. So this is the first class we've had. It's our inaugural class, and they have completed 3 modules so far. So they'll be back in Oxford. I think you'll be back in early May for your 4th module. So you've still got lots to come, but hopefully by now you've all got a good sense of the programme and what you've signed up for. So I'm going to say to everybody as well online, if you have any specific questions that you want to ask our panel, feel free to post them in the Q&A function. Kate and I have quite a few to get us going already, but we're very happy to answer as many as we can, so feel free to post them on there. Yes, to get started, it would be really nice to hear, just to go around and have introductions, so hear a little bit more about your backgrounds, your current roles. Should we go in, Celine, should we start with you, if that's okay?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Celine Getz. I am an academic hospitalist in the United States. I'm at Rush University Medical Center. So I'm a internal medicine doctor that works on the front lines, but only in the hospital setting. I no longer do clinical care or outpatient clinical medicine. I rose into my current leadership position, I guess 2.5 years ago now, right in the midst of COVID. I first started at Rush, this is my 6th year. And had initially just wanted to take good care of patients, and then got involved in a lot of medical education roles. So I'm also involved in the internal medicine clerkship and core faculty with the internal medicine residency program. And then during COVID, of course, everything changed as it did for everyone. But I found myself in a lot of leadership, or having to organize and coordinate surge staffing and planning. And of course, this was completely unprecedented, but really enjoyed that work. And because of successes there, rose into the current leadership position I have right now. So I'm the Associate Division Chief of Hospital Medicine. And yeah, I guess that's a good little intro about me.
No, that's absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. Olumide, should we come to you next? If that's okay?
Yes, that's fine. I hope you can hear me okay.
Perfectly.
Hi, everyone that's joined us. We're glad that you're able to join. Olamide Folorunsho. I'm Nigerian, trained physician, but I've been working in global health, public health in the international development space in the last 12 years. Started off as a clinician, worked a few years, and then branched into public health consulting, did a number of projects, supported a number of projects ranging from HIV immunization in Nigeria, before I studied for my master's in global health and development here in the UK, and then transitioned to Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance, where I worked on some health system strengthening portfolio, and then moved to UNICEF. I've been with UNICEF in the last 6 years, transitioned from the supply headquarters, where I was responsible for support governments to redesign their supply chains and their immunization systems for greater outcomes, to now in the last 2 years, joining the UNICEF headquarters and responsible for vaccine management, ensuring that our programs contribute to program outcomes and all that. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sarah, over to you if that's okay.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, or wherever you might be elsewhere in the world. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Salvis from Canada, and I technically work as an advanced care paramedic and an acting district supervisor for the paramedic service where I am, and I have been here for the last 15 years. However, I'm currently the psychological health and safety lead for some work around that in my organization. And I've been a long-term awareness advocate for mental health for first responders and paramedics specifically for even longer than I've actually been a working paramedic. I got involved in the space as a student more than 15 years ago, and some roles in that. More recently, I've become a researcher in that space, but I've also lobbied the federal government for a change for first responders at the federal level, and I've also long-term training facilitator in the space around mental health awareness. So that's a little bit I don't know if that's enough of an introduction, but yeah, thank you.
Nice. Thank you. And Mohammed. Hello.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm Mohammed Siddiqui. I work as a transformation advisor in Roche Pharmaceuticals here in Basel, Switzerland. Can't wait to discuss the various aspects of this amazing program. My background, pretty diverse. I started my career as a management consultant with Accenture. Spent 6 years with them. Then I moved to a Japanese consultancy, 3 years with them. Then I decided to take the leap into the life sciences industry. I spent a couple of years with Novartis, and I've been with Roche for just over 9 years now. Based here in Basel with my family, and some of the time spent in Oxford. So wonderful, wonderful program, and looking forward to share more details with you the next hour.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's nice that you've all got really different backgrounds. So it would be and if it's okay, just to hear briefly from each of you why you chose this program. Was there anything particular that really drew you to it, or was a particular aim that you're hoping to get out of it? Sarah, should we start with you? That's okay.
I was like, we're going back around, then I'll have an opportunity to think about it. You're mixing it up. Yeah. So absolutely. I don't have a problem admitting that I found the program by accident, but it was because it was actually a Google search for certain criteria, and so that was one thing. But what sort of led me to pursuing an interest in the program in the first place was looking sort of for the next step and looking for in my career and my personal growth. But it was also about looking beyond a traditional MBA and wanting a combined perspective around health and business and innovation and a global perspective And some of that is motivated by kind of how the paramedic profession has developed in my corner of the world, and how we need to kind of look beyond our corner of the world to sort of solve some of the challenges that we're facing as a profession. And so that's sort of essentially what kind of drew me and and motivated me. I don't know if that sort of answers the question.
No, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, when I speak to people who are considering it, it's quite a common motivation. So really nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons that drew me, but this definitely was a
key one. Who wants to go next?
I mean, I can jump off of that because a lot of that does resonate. I have a sort of unusual personal situation where my husband is professionally based in London, and that's where I am right now. Even though I'm an American doctor, and not to get into a total other rabbit hole, but I certainly have decided that working clinically in the UK is not really the right fit for me, certainly at this point. So I had been, and since I knew that the next step in my general trajectory, I wanted it to be in the leadership element of healthcare. And I could see very quickly that an MBA kind of experience would be helpful in terms of analyzing spreadsheets and motivating my team. And a lot of this, even though I think doctors tend to look down on MBAs, like I knew that was actually a skill set I was really going to need. So I started to look at various other business school programs in the UK, thinking that would be a good pivot point. And I wasn't really finding anything where I could continue to work full time, which I didn't want to leave my current position until the degree was over. And I wanted to have a really a strong networking experience. So that initially I was looking really just in London because that's where we're based, and I wasn't finding really the right fit for me. And then I was like, wait, why am I not looking at Oxford and Cambridge? And a very simple Google search and just changed it from London to Oxford. And this popped up and I was like, oh my God, I really wanted to do it in person, or to have an in-person experience. That was a big part of it too. I didn't want a virtual MBA because there are plenty of those. And this was just a perfect fit where I'm already in London pretty frequently. I've been able to kind of incorporate that in, really meet an incredible group of people, and at the same time continue to work full time and really grow in my home institution.
Perfect. Thank you. No, that's really nice to hear. Anything else to add? Yeah, please jump in.
Yes. No, thanks. So working in international development in the last years, of course, anyone would see the obvious changes that's happening in that landscape. Multiplicity of partners, increased complexities, uncertainties. We have funding challenges, so work very closely with low and middle income countries. And in addition to dwindling resourcing from high income countries, just because they also have a lot of economic challenges. In low and middle income countries, we still continue to have those economic challenges. So it's almost like a hole in which you keep digging and you never get out of. So that landscape has been changing. We've had the rise of even strong private funders like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all that. So that space has changed. And then add on top of that, as if it was not complex enough, what happened with COVID. It almost throughout COVID worked in vaccines, worked in oxygen, and so supporting countries with those projects. And it was just as if COVID used all my skills and depleted everything. So it was almost like, okay, with this landscape changing and with this increased complexity, there definitely would be, there will be need for new skills. There will be need for rethinking things. There will be need for, you have to work with a wide range of partners. Some answers will not be relevant again, and you have to have new answers. You have to be able to deal with paradoxical situations. So that initially led me to an MBA. But when you go through an MBA, you don't do a lot of case studies on global health institutions, because most of the bread and butter there will be financial institutions. So this program was quite the right fit because it was that collaboration between Northfield and Said. And so it could bring the global health, the perspective, and you could also bring the business end of things. So it was just the right fit at that moment. and it was just too good to not apply.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Lovely.
Yeah, I would also quickly add to my cohort's response. You know, the world of healthcare is changing very rapidly. So you see a few macro events happening, obviously, geopolitical tensions, COVID, patent cliffs for big pharma, and so on and so forth. So no longer that conventional thinking of having a very myopic, narrow-minded view on things will solve the challenges of tomorrow. One of the things in an active course that we are currently going through talks about the systems thinking aspect of healthcare and how you connect the dots at the system level, be it policymakers, reimbursement bodies, drug development, supply chain, and so on and so forth. And without that coherent knowledge, the cohesive strategy, you're not going to be able to succeed. So for me, this was the most important aspect to register in this program. And if you talk about strategy and healthcare combined together, there is no better place than Saeed and Nafeel to do that. And that was my main motivation to apply and join the program.
Lovely, thank you. And that leads quite nicely into our next area of questions, which Kate, I think you're taking, which is all around your sort of experience of actually being here, being in Oxford, and sort of the practicalities of the program.
Yes, and also actually links quite nicely to Thoko's question in the Q&A, which Sarah has very kindly picked up sort of initially. But I'd just like to start off. Obviously it's wonderful that everybody here has found the program, and it certainly sounds as though everybody is also enjoying themselves, which is also always a nice place to find ourselves. But in terms of in terms of your experience of studying at Oxford so far, how are you finding sort of balancing that full-time sort of job, as we've all talked through? Obviously, you are all in very busy full-time jobs, so I think it would just be lovely to hear from you a little bit about how you found the Oxford experience, and also how you found balancing the program with the work that you do. I don't know if Celine, we might come to you first on that one.
Sure. Well, let's see. It's not easy. I will say that much. I'm quite used to traveling between Chicago and London anyway. And I already have it. The way that my clinical work is that when I'm on service, everything else in my life stops. And then when I'm off service, I try to pick it all back up again. So I'm used, for those physicians or other medical people out there, I live in a world of systole and diastole. That is just how I work. So adding Oxford into the sort of diastole part of my life, it has been something I've been able to do, but it does. It's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Going to Oxford, though, even though I guess I know a lot of people are doing this kind of on what would be their vacation time. The way that my work is that I'm never really on vacation, but it is time away from the hospital. That is definitely true. I will say though that it's very I feel my tank filling up while I'm there. It's just an incredibly meaningful and gratifying experience when I'm there. The connections that I've made have been incredible, and the kind of conversations and different perspectives. And I think we're all coming into this with a real passion for what we do, as well as a notion that there's more out there, that we need to all expand and view these complex problems from different perspectives. So physically being at Oxford is amazing, and I look forward to it every time. And even if it does mean, perhaps cutting down on other obligate or social, whatever else in my life, I haven't regretted it for a single second. I didn't really know when I applied, what being in Oxford would be like. I did go out to the business school for a day last spring just to sort of check it out. But, you get to the business school, it's right off the train station. I walked around the business school, I got back on the train. Then when we actually started in September and walking around this just incredible historical academic center of the universe with these, so much history, and it just so beautiful, and really finding myself kind of integrated into this larger university, that was something I definitely didn't see coming, and it's been incredible. So No, it's not easy. For me, it has definitely been worthwhile. Once you're at Oxford, I guess it's the other thing. I feel like I'm very well taken care of. I'm in my college. I'm able to stay at my college, and it's actually less expensive for me to stay at the college than go back and forth between London and the business school, that's what I had anticipated doing. And lunch is served, breakfast is served, you get so it feels like once I'm there, I'm sort of like in that experience, and it's been one that I can really focus on the academic experience.
Maybe just a tiny additional shout out to the catering there, because I know we all do enjoy that very much. We're very lucky.
Yeah.
And Olamide, how about you? What's your Oxford experience been like so far?
No, thanks. I mean, Oxford is Oxford, like Celine said. Of course, I had a bit of understanding of what Oxford is, but you never just get to understand the richness and the history that sustained the institution until you step into it and you just absorb it. And it starts with the faculty also. Apart from the buildings and dated history everywhere you go, and the faculty have tremendously benefited from the rich faculty, again from the business school and also from the primary health care department. So that gives a lot of complementarity that has been truly rewarding to me. And like Celine said, the fact that the cohort, I think we are just also about 35, we come from different backgrounds and perspectives. So the richness, so what really has struck me and what has been great is that experience in class on where people share their experiences and the cross-fertilization of ideas and perspectives has really been humbling. So for me, that has been very useful. The fact that when you're in Oxford, like Celine said, the fact that everything is made to make you really focus on scholarship has also been helpful. Balancing work and study, it's difficult. I mean, you even if you're in Oxford on your holiday, you probably will get some emails at work and you need to step out. I mean, we've had 3 modules. They've gone differently for me. And I think I've taken leaves just 3 times. But I remember in the 3rd module, I've had to take meetings almost throughout the day in one of the days. And I've had to continue to apologize to colleagues because I couldn't get myself out of those meetings. So it's been difficult, but it's something that is workable if one plans it, and it's been truly rewarding. One of the things that has been practical also for me, I think probably we may get to speak about it later, is the fact that I could easily transfer what is being discussed or learned in class to also what I do in practice. So that's even made it more and more rewarding for me. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Olamide. And Sarah, you were nodding a lot during that. I don't know if you want to pick up on anything that's particularly resonated.
Oh, I mean, all of it. I think yes, Oxford, I had no idea what I was getting into in terms of, I knew the reputation. I didn't really know what that actually meant in practice. I had never been to this place before. But yes, like all these pieces around the challenge of balancing, like both Olamide and Celine have spoken about that and what it means, you're trying to do your emails, maybe, life goes on outside of the school space. And as much as I'd love to imagine that everything stops while I'm not present, it's not the case. So you have to kind of make do, but that's part of the challenge. And it's about learning and growing and developing those skills to be able to task switch or do the things you need to do and what's important and prioritize. And those are all really good, important, valuable skills. I think in terms of experience, like it absolutely has been incredible. It's been a little overwhelming. I think that's also been spoken to. And but it's been worth every minute thus far. The beauty of the program and our particular cohort is we do have people from around the world, and then the beauty of modern technology is that you can stay connected through other means as well, and just it's pretty amazing the richness of the experience and how we make do with, we're not in person all the time, but you can connect in other ways. And so, I mean, I could go on, but really it's all been fantastic with, sure, of course, there's some bumps along the way, but that's part of the school experience, I would imagine, and absolutely has been supported, and the school rather has been supportive, and the cohort has been supportive of one another, and all those good things. So yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. I wonder if Mohammed, we could pick up on the Oxford experience, but kind of feeding in maybe a particular part of that, and just with a little bit of additional focus on the cohort that you're a part of. And kind of, we will always talk a lot, and this is true across our executive portfolio, of the importance of the diversity of the classes that we bring together, the diversity of our programme content, of our faculty. It would just be really interesting to hear from you as well as to whether you have found that that's borne out in the classroom, and sort of whether you feel that it's having a positive impact on your experience of the programme so far as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Kate, for that. So Oxford experience, you've already heard so much from my colleagues there. There are no two doubts about it. It's a completely different immersive environment, and the kind of facilities that you have access to probably unmatchable anywhere else. I did my MBA at the University of Chicago, and in my very first week, I was discussing with the Dean, Sumit Datta, that how much of a positive experience has been. Obviously, Chicago was great as well. It was over a decade ago, but you get a sense in Oxford, and I see Celine smiling, being a Chicago native. She probably will have a hard time distinguishing between
and
Chicago
a Chicago alum as well.
and alum too, indeed.
Right.
So not going to go on into detail about the Oxford experience, which has been absolutely fantastic. But there are 35 people in the cohorts, as you probably saw in one of the slides that were flashed earlier in the discussion. And I do not believe any two people are from the same background, yet we all roll up into the healthcare sector. You have 4 profiles here on the call. You have a senior paramedic expert, you have a US-based physician, you have a UN person. I belong to Big Pharma, I work in Big Pharma. So, and the richness and diversity of experience and learnings that we bring to the class really makes that a wholesome experience, in my opinion. The deans, the faculties have been absolutely fantastic. We have access to some of the best coaching material, training materials in the world. But in my humble opinion, the knowledge we get from each other is not, you cannot match that with any other classroom that you might sit in. To give you some profiles of the backgrounds that we have folks from the Ministry of Health in certain European countries. We have folks who are working in the NGO space in low middle income countries like Bangladesh. We have colleagues who are working in Middle Eastern regions of crises at the moment that are part of that. We have NHS colleagues who are working in very senior policy making positions, as well as people who are practicing, consultants, and so on and so forth. We have private equity, leveraged buyout colleagues from the West Coast of the United States. So it's a very diverse group, and it has, at least in my opinion, for my future career planning, has opened new avenues and new channels that I never thought could be possible for me to explore anymore. We are constantly talking about, there's a lot of buzz around startup culture in the entrepreneurial environment at the moment. Not that we're going to launch our, seeding round or startup in the next 6 months or so, but this kind of thing 6 months ago never crossed my mind. But where I'm sitting today, it could be a reality in the next 6 to 8 months or so. Also, we have on the call, I believe, Munad Akbari, who is working for the Ministry of Health in United Arab Emirates. And the kind of challenges, they might have a smaller scale, but the horizon or the scope of work is so wide that the kind of experiences he brings to the room is just unbelievable. So that diversity, I do not believe. And I did a very thorough research before joining this course. So I looked up on other Ivy League institutions, I looked up on other British universities and so on. There is not a single course anywhere which kind of compresses so much content in such an eloquent fashion and yet still being able to do your full-time job at the same time. So that is the unique aspect of SAID, of MGHL, of Master in Global Healthcare, and also the Nuffield Institute. So sorry I went on for a bit longer, but I just feel so passionate about it.
No, that's great. Tiny echo.
There we go.
Better. Thank you, Mohammed. That's wonderful. I don't want to cut anybody off who might have other things to say about the cohort. So please do include those sort of thoughts as we go through the rest of the conversation. But I can see there's a question that's dropped into to the Q&A around the applicability of what you're learning on the programme at the moment, and sort of, you know, how you are not just learning it, I suppose, but also putting it to use, and that takes us on quite nicely to our next set of questions, which Laura will lead on around the impact of the programme on the work that you're doing.
Perfect. Can you all hear me? Okay. Yeah. Good stuff, because we're in the same room, you see, so you never know what will happen. Yeah. So just leading on, it'd be really nice, and I can see some questions that are coming up in the chat. Yeah, to hear about the impact really of the learning so far, recognizing you are only three modules in, but yeah, just to hear how applicable have you actually found the content, and have the learnings had any impact so far on your role or your career or what you're looking for. Who wants to go first? Sarah? Oh, yeah, great, Mohammed, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, you know, I am a very ambitious person. Everybody knows about it. So I don't have the magic response to that question where what I'm looking for. But 6 months into the program, I have a very good feeling of what I'm not looking for. And that's half the equation for when you're working and doing your career planning. So I work in the supply chain currently, and manufacturing, and it's a very hands-on operational role, looking at the strategy for future supply and demand and so on. And I know this is not what I want to do in the next 5 years. So I have that part of the puzzle solved. Now I have to look at the other aspect as to what I do want to do, and I still have 18 months to figure that out. Sorry, just wanted to quickly address that.
No, that's really good to hear. I think that's a really valid point. Celine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I came into this program really thinking that what I needed out of this was to pivot into something else, and that something else needed to be based in London or in Europe. And that was really how I came into this, which isn't really that long ago. That's only 6 months ago. What the program has done is, I mean, each module kind of builds on the previous one. And one of our assessments is due on Monday. So I think all of us are probably in the very thick of trying to finish up this assessment right now, at least I am. And as hard as that is to balance with everything else that's going on, what it does force you to do is really think about these complex, wicked, as we say, problems that face our everyday life. And I will say that there's it's almost like it being given a bit of a gift, because you're being, to some extent forced to do this. I've really had to deep dive into the problems that, plague my group, my hospital, my colleagues, my patients, God, every single day. And by having that time and space to mull these things over, especially within the frameworks that are being given, that are being taught and explored in these intensives, it means I've really come away with much better insight into it in terms of solving it. We were kind of talking about this actually earlier today. I mean, like the first assessment I did, it's now been 6 months since I turned that in, but the way that problem has evolved since then, I've been able to apply all of that mental energy into that. And as the problem itself has evolved, and, there are certain individuals that have moved, have had to move on, and I'm able to still see or apply that lens and that insight into the kind of ongoing way in which we're tackling this reality of what we do. So I think of that, that's an obvious or that's kind of an ongoing example. The last assessment that we did for the second module, I use that as I try to make everything count twice, but I specifically pitched that assessment plan that I was able to create because I was doing this course, pitched it to my CMO. It got approved. We're now launching it right now. So that was a really obvious direct thing. And in the process of doing that, I basically went back after this was approved, like it was essentially given the go ahead and said, I need to be in London. Can Rush make this work? And they said yes, which then completely changed how I'm thinking about the next stage of my career. Suddenly it feels like I can actually grow within my organization, which no one would ever have considered doing that, before virtual technology has taken over the world the way that it did during COVID. So I don't know exactly what my next step is. I guess it's just, I can already see that I have opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's very much based on the experiences that I'm having in the course.
Thank you.
So I hope that answers a lot of people's questions have been kind of like, what specifically? Well,
yes,
it's much easier to say than type. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, no, it does, because I can see a question coming in about takeaways that you're having from the program so far. So yeah, that's really nice to hear. Thank you. Olamide, should we come to you?
Yes, for me, I think I can very much relate with Celine and Mohammed. We are only 3 modules in, and starting just understanding yourself as a healthcare leader that we started with, it's extremely important, understanding your biases, understanding the fact that you may think you are being rational, but you're actually rationalizing. Those are themes that get to stick with you just because you go through an immersive process. That just makes you look at yourself in the mirror and not think that everyone else has biases and you are the most rational person. So that helps also transiting into organizations. In our second module, how you lead your team and organization priorities, intersecting with other priorities from other organizations. Sometimes quite competing priorities and interests, but still you have to work together. So that has been helpful. So those are skills that can easily be transferred from class to the room to work. And like Celine was saying, and I think Mohammed, even the current third module that talks about systems thinking just helps you to understand that you may think you have a healthcare problem, but you actually have a social problem. And by looking at it differently, you open yourself up to several other interventions or opportunities to solve the problem. So I've had to, like Celine's experience also is, apply what is being learned, what I'm learning in class immediately to challenges in my work, professional life, but also in the team I work with, but also my perception of what's around me in the international development space and the opportunities there. Of course, that would continue to impact options I consider and take in future career paths too. So yeah, that's been the experience.
Great. No, thank you. That's really good. Nice to hear. And Sarah, yeah, anything that you would like to add? And some lovely points being made.
It's funny because this came up in a conversation with Dr. Mahatni this morning among a group of us that we were meeting as a cohort and speaking about this. And yes, am I applying what I'm learning? Yes, all 3 modules thus far. I don't have the MBA experience, or I don't already have a master's in another program. So I'm finding it very applicable, and I'm definitely taking pieces away. And even the people that do have those other educations in other spaces are finding there's components that are applicable. And I can use examples from all the way along, and we're only, so many months into the program, but I will specifically speak to the most recent module that Celine spoke about. And we're doing a systems level approach for a problem. And it was very interesting. Actually, an email arrived in my inbox that sort of spurred a conversation around a potential gap in knowledge. And the work on this particular assessment, I was able to directly say, oh, well, maybe we can go this angle on some work moving forward. And we may, as part of a larger research program within my organization, we may pursue a new kind of way of looking at something. And I was like, oh, there we go. This is, I mean, there's a lot of conversation in the chat also about fees. And so I will just sort of speak to that and how, like, I'm seeing this as an investment for my future me, but I love what Celine says, and she said it to me before about how she makes everything work twice. And I was like, or however she says it. And I think I would agree. It's like, it's like, yes, I'm learning this and this is great, but I can also bring this back and there's value and I'm about investing in it, and whether it be my future or whether it be helping my organization. Like, so yes to everything that everybody's saying. Yes, it's applicable. And then, sure, I think people have sort of said like one main takeaway, what is one thing you've learned? And I mean, there are so many one things I see. I think Michael has sort of asked that around one has, oh my goodness, like so many, but I think just the diversity of thought and the diversity of thinking, what Olamide was sort of referring to, like that really resonates with me about kind of, if you're talking about global, you're talking about healthcare and you're talking about leadership, you need to have a broader way of thinking about things, problems, the space, working in organizations, teamwork, you as a leader, all those things require the broader perspective. And that's what this program does. It brings that diverse cohort together, a learning experience together, content, all of it. So that's me rambling a little bit, but that's, I mean, absolutely everything thus far I've been able to apply in my work. And most specifically recently, it was sort of like, I had a bit of this is really interesting moment where I was like able to directly apply what I was working on for my assessment. So I haven't even finished my assessment yet because I'm like busy applying it to some other stuff at work, which is probably good because that's what pays the bills. So
no, exactly. And I mean, you've spoken about it, mentioned it a couple of times, but how have you found the assessments so far? Is a question that pops up quite a bit. I think people go into this with curiosity and sort of wanted to know how have you found them?
Is that kind of for anybody, or I mean, I'm happy to chime in and sort of say, yes, this is a master's level program. Yes, it requires effort. Everybody is going to have a different perspective on what that means and how much they're willing to put into the process to then take out what they want. Thus far, it's been manageable for me, but I think there's questions around work-life balance in the chat. I have an amazing support system, and I'm not currently working a shift work pattern. So I have a different schedule right now, and I'm more often. So like it's about support, and it's about asking for support when you need it, or taking the time, or blocking things off. And so thus far, 3 modules in, and again, 3rd module assessment isn't complete yet, but thus far manageable. But it requires development of good skills and practices and processes on your own side, whatever that means for you as a student.
Lovely. A nice question that we like to ask people before we move to sort of a final roundup is, how would you describe the program in 3 words? Which is quite tricky. So I don't know if anybody wants to jump in and have a go. Doesn't have to be 3 words, but it's close to it. See how you do.
Mohammed, go for it.
I'm going to use the old cliche, just do it.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll go with brings it together.
Okay, nice. Excellent.
Oh, that's funny. I thought we had to come up with 3 adjectives. So what I was going to say is diverse. I mean, we've said that a bajillion times, but it is probably the most diverse 35-person experience I've ever had. Passionate and gratifying. Those are my 3.
Nice. Very nice. Sarah?
I'm not as articulate, but I would say awesome learning connections.
Lovely. Really nice. Nice bit of variety across the group. And then, I mean, I'll check the Q&A before we finish, but it's always nice just to hear there's lots of people on this call who are at different phases of the sort of decision-making journey, a bit like you probably were this time last year, whether or not you'd already applied or already got your offer, or you're still doing your research. So yeah, just to finish, if you have any tips or any thoughts that you just want to share with people who are here today. Big question, I know.
I mean, what I will say is that I may have just found out about the program a year ago, if that. I may have been a week away from that. So I'm very unusual in the cohort. Many people had applied for this like a year prior, and then the first cohort didn't start on time because of COVID and So my situation's a bit unusual. I guess one of the reasons why I completed the application and ultimately enrolled as quickly, and kind of had to move things around a lot because I made this decision quite quickly. But I will say that for me the essays wrote very easily for me. I was able to finish the application just in a weekend because so much of this had been kind of marinating in my head for a long time, and it was kind of an exciting for me that weekend was. It was exciting to actually put a lot of these experiences and thoughts onto paper, and that's when I kind of hit apply. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I just was thankful to have the experience of getting these various thoughts on paper. And so if you're feeling that, that's probably a good sign. Yeah, and I guess that's sort of set the stage for what my whole last year has been.
Good stuff. Mohammed.
I think I can quickly add on to, I just read a question on the chat that what are the real world challenges that you're applying to solve in this program? And the module that we are going through, we are basically split into 6 diverse groups focusing on these 6 topics. And there is no better example than looking at those hands-on tangible examples. So I'll quickly read through for you. So improving healthcare delivery in Democratic Republic of Congo, leveraging digital mental health technologies to improve outcomes, upstream approaches to optimize health for the homeless citizens, equipping primary care and addressing social concerns in the healthcare system, and the persistent problem of global antimicrobial resistance that we are currently facing. So that kind of gives you the prospect of just one module that we are currently going through. The May module, I'm even more excited for that one. That talks about the evidence-based challenges in policymaking. And then we move on to the other exciting stuff for the rest of the 3 weeks that we have planned for. So just to give you an idea as to what kind of real work that we are all involved with. And if I'm not wrong, me, Sarah, and Selena are part of the same group, currently tackling the healthcare challenges for the homeless. We have a call planned for later this evening. And Olamide, I think you are, if you can remind us quickly which group you're in.
The winning team,
Yeah, the antibiotics.
The winning team,
So it was just time for the coffee break, and we gave the award to that team. So,
yeah, antimicrobial resistance. Thanks, Mohammed and Celine. For me too, I think it was a very easy decision, but it was also perhaps it was a signpost of what our experience as very challenging during the course itself. Applying was also difficult. I mean, it was not that it was difficult to put those essays together, but I just had a lot of work commitments. I think I was in New York for a week, in Rwanda for 2 weeks, and the deadline was the weekend I came back. And I was like, how should I just let this go, or should I just get through it? But I gave it what I had, and thankfully we're here. So I'll just say, if it's something that you've read through, and you think it's important for your career, I think I must have submitted after Celine, because my was on the deadline, the last deadline, I think, that I came through with it. So I mean, just give it all it takes, and it's also competitive. I think sometimes what falls within the rack is the fact that it's competitive. But I mean, with all looking at the essays consciously and putting your thoughts on paper would be important. A lot of people have talked about funding for the program. That's extremely important. I see that Kate and Laura have shared the scholarship opportunities that are available. I think I think Kate also shared how you could stagger payment in the minimum. Those are things that you could look at. Also, like Celine said, I also do the same thing. My college offers quite reasonably cheap accommodation. I think I get it for about 25 or 30. I think basic student accommodation, if you're not, if you're not basic student accommodation, if you're not, if that works for you, so that can, so you could actually make things work. And a couple of scholarship. I mean, I got one award to be on the program for 50% of my fees. I don't think they come a lot, but I mean, good luck to everyone. You can take a shot at it and probably you would also get it. So, but like Sarah said, I think the most important thing is the fact that it's an investment also. And at least that's my own approach. And I think I share that with a lot of my colleagues also online. The fact that it's an investment into what you do, how much you can invest in yourself, then comes on the table. That's how I'll put it.
Thank you so much. Sarah, final to you.
I mean, again, everything that everybody has been saying thus far, and I would say in terms of some last thoughts and pieces, and I really want to reiterate the importance of the support system, and for people who are, moving from I've been accepted, or you're making a decision and then moving into being a student come the fall, it's so important to have a support system. Again, there was the work-life balance questions in the chat, the Q&A rather, and I can't reiterate that enough, how important that is. But also know that Oxford has a support system. I joked, again, back to sort of the college system, and myself and one of our colleagues in the cohort, we are in the same college and we have college parents, and we joked that our college parents are technically they're like half our age, but they're meant to help us as part of this support system, our academic advisors, the people on the program. So it's not just about you having to have your own support system, and you're going to be sort of thrown to the world without it. The school also does as well. So there's that. And I would suggest really this importance about acknowledging the challenges, that's also been talked about. And Oxford is an old institution, and with that comes its own challenges, but there's also some huge benefits with that sort of, with that system and that institution and the prestige and the things you're getting access to, and then use those support systems, use those resources, use the what's available through that institution, and sort of understand where your expectations can fit with that. What can you shape and mold? What do you have control over? What can you access the support for, or use other resources? And really, I'd sort of say it's about fostering those connections within the cohort and within that support system, and lean on one another as a cohort. And it's so incredible, the support that's available through that diverse group that we have. And really just be prepared to be amazed is kind of the, if I'm going to sort of sum it up in a just do it sort of tagline, just be prepared to be amazed, because that's kind of what I thus far I've been amazed, and I continue to be in awe of my colleagues, the three on this call and others throughout the program that we've encountered. I just continually am in awe and amazed by all the amazing things that we bring together as a group. So
thank you. It's a really lovely note to end on. And just to say, thank you so much to all four of you. I feel like we've covered loads of ground. It's been really nice to hear your feedback, hear your thoughts. We've had excellent questions, and really lots of questions, which is really nice to see from everybody joining online. And thank you so much to you for hopping on the chat and answering some of them as well. We do have a couple of final slides just to run through. We're doing well for time. Oh, sorry, Mohammed.
Just quickly wanted to add, and the call is about to finish. I have to drop off for the next meeting. Lovely being part of the program. Feel free to reach out, LinkedIn, whatever. Happy to answer any further questions too. Wish you all a lovely day. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Take care. So if we can just bring up the slides.
Lovely. So I'll if I just unmute myself for yes. There we go. Done.
No, let's
go like this. Okay. So I just wanted to flag a couple of our upcoming deadlines from an application perspective. mentioned at the very beginning of the session, our next intake for this programme will start in September. We have an application round deadline coming up on the 24th of April. That's importantly our scholarship deadline. So if anybody on the call is keen both to apply for the programme and to apply for one of our SBS scholarships, it's very important that you have your application completed and with us by the 24th of April. For anybody who's looking to take a little bit more time or sort of doesn't have that scholarship consideration, our final application round for the programme starting in September will close on the 5th of June. So decent amounts of time still to get an application in, and we're obviously always very happy to hear from people who are considering the programme. So please do sort of reach out and get in touch if you have any questions or would like any further information.
Great, thanks, Kate, and well done for doing that with an echo, which is never easy. So yes, just to say thank you so much again for everybody for joining. I really hope that this session has been helpful and answered some of your questions and hearing sort of firsthand from our students on the cohort. But if you have any additional questions, we'd love to hear from you if I haven't touched base with you already. So there's a few ways that you can get in touch. As you can see, my email is here. You can submit your CV, so you can do that via our website, or you can just send it to me directly. I'm very happy to give feedback and sort of provide any answers that you need. And obviously, if we've already spoken or you're sort of raring to go, then you can start an application online and you can find all the links there on our website. But yes, thank you. I think we're pretty much on time. So thank you so much to our lovely panel for being here today, for sparing the time and for all your lovely insights. And thank you to everybody for joining. And we hope to see you in Oxford sometime in future. Good. So take care. Thanks all.